Shalom. Call hello Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors unto the apostles, double honors unto the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so now more so than ever. The would-be judges, the 144,000, 12,000 men from each of the 12 tribes of Israel, which make up the holy body, the tabernacle of David, as spoken of in Amos, I believe is 9 and 11. All right, who are to be the new ruling class government over all races, over all other people on earth, under the authority of who the world fraudulently and falsely calls JC. His name is Yahweh Shai. The kingdom of heaven will be here on earth, and the government that's going to rule in the kingdom of heaven will be the 144,000 judges, all right, using the word of the Lord as the authority. That is the constitution, the government, and the law. All right, which will be established here on earth. That's, as the Lord's Prayer says, on earth as it is in heaven. That's when it happens. And it will be enforced by the Israelites. And to the rest of the scattered Israelites, the scattered elect of the Israelites, not all the Israelites, the elect of Israel, that are scattered around the four corners of the earth among the heathen nations that have the appearance of the heathen nations. All right, this is not a black thing. Is an Israelite thing. The Lord's going to gather them up from those places they were scattered to. Right? And to the few Akwaf, meaning the sisters that are listening and learning, I say Shalom. This is your brother Malcolm from the branch of the Great Millstone here in Chicago. Right? And here you have another brown man calling himself black, referring to his people as black. Like I was watching the field, man. That dude, oh boy, from the African diaspora. All right, Africans, you know, the diaspora didn't come from Africa. The diaspora started in Western Asia, just above Africa. All right, the Israelites, many of them fled into Europe, and many of them fled into Asia, including the portion they call Europe. All right, that's why it's called Eurasia. All right, Europe sits in Asia. And a huge amount of them fled into Africa. All right, so it's not an African diaspora. Africans are a different swarthy people, a different melanated dark people. We're not the same people. All right, we look different and we have different spirits completely. And that word black, you know, it's that word hate and black belong together, because labeling a people black is a very hateful thing. And then it's a very ignorant thing for you to continue to refer to yourself as that after it's been explained 1,000 times over that black is a negative word. The meanings of it are endless when it comes to negative things. It literally means dirty. It means unworthy, untrustworthy, immoral, right? Diseased, degenerates. And so if they just went around calling us immoral people, degenerate people, ugly people, dirty people, you know, dark people as an evil. All right. Black covers all that. So in the moment you put black in front of anything, you make everything after it negative. Look it up. Before you open your mouth and say something stupid, just look it up. And now you have people like this brother and many others who just black excellence. So evil excellence, dirty excellence, untrustworthy excellence, immoral excellence. All right. So calling yourself black is a big form of having self-hate. All right. Then because that's why you experience this. Right. I'll just play the first few seconds of this video. But the name of the video is 5 black friendly countries under 1,000 you haven't thought of. All right. So we're just going to play the opening of this video. You can go and watch it, you know, and most of the countries are in South America. But here we go, where people down there look just like you. A lot of people down there. So we're the same damn people, but here we go.
This is what America has been the entire time.
I ain't never felt safe around white people.
Black man found hanging from a tree in Mississippi.
Y'all come up on here trying to put black people in this shit.
How the hell
it, we get in it.
White fatigue is real.
Do you hear me, brothers and sisters?
Most mass shootings in America, white men. School shootings, domestic violence. Serial killers, domestic terrorism, white men, white men, white men.
It's all their mess, and they are headed in one direction. It's time to let God sort them out while you find your way out. If you got limbs, then grab a pad and pen and climb in. Here are 5 thriving countries that are black-friendly, have a high quality of life, and are...
Now, once again, unless you're colorblind, these people are brown. And it's funny, I was just watching and listening to the DLG. D as in David, L as in love, G as in God, the DLG, the Dark Latin Groove. All right, one of my favorite, bands from that genre of music. You know, if you like the Cuban jazz, the salsa, and they were very popular in the late 90s and early 2000s, the DLG. All right. I used to bounce in a very popular, very well-known Latin club back in the day. For years, I was a bouncer there. And I do like the DLG. And then if you saw the DLG, if you were standing next to like the main singer, the lead singer was a guy named Oscar. He had the typical Puerto Rican look. So you could point out Oscar and say, okay, well, that guy's Hispanic. But the other main members of the band, you'd never know these guys were not the same as the people you're looking at on the screen until they open their mouths. And when I say not the same, I just mean in the language that they speak, because they're all Israelites. You have to understand that. So you can't take, the guys. I should have, this is all through the spirit. I could have just even put the DLG, put their images up, so we can put them side by side in comparison. All right, and how you would call, oh, well, these people are black, these people are Latin. You see the stupidity in that? All right, Jake doesn't want to acknowledge the biblical standpoint, and so let's get a scripture. Let's go to Ezekiel 35:5, and it reads, "Because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time of their iniquity have had an end." All right. "Therefore, as I live, saith the Lord power, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee." And that's where we are now, because the Edomites are still shedding the blood of the sons and daughters of Israel. And now we can see that the end is manifest. So the Lord is preparing them unto blood. The more blood they spill, the more heinous acts that they commit, the closer they are to their own destruction. And they're only being allowed to destroy the 2/3 of the Israelites that they're killing are mainly the 2/3 of Israel who are already marked for death. It's the destiny and the punishment of the 2/3 to die grievously here. That's their punishment for turning their back on the Lord and turning their back on their people. Salakia. I need to close this shade. There we go. So that's their punishment. Okay? And this guy asked the question, why do whites hate black? Well, we're going to talk about that. All right? And I have to talk about it. Many of you know, but for those of you who do know, remember there's always new people, newly awakened, or just someone who's just, wanting to know what this is all about. All right. So we have to go into these explanations, and you'll have to understand that whiteness and blackness are social constructs recently, created. When I say recently, I mean going back about 400 or 500 years, because prior to that term, no one really used the terminology of black or white. You see it printed in books because that's what people understand now. But if you go back far enough, you'll see the word swarthy or tawny. All right. People like this man you know, on the screen, people like myself will be referred to as Tawny. Okay? People like this, they will be referred to as Swarthy. But yet, you know that they're the same people. She's Swarthy, he's Swarthy, he's Tawny. All right? And I don't know how, you know, looking through the lens on my camera, he's a little darker than what he really is on my camera. But because on the actual screen that I'm looking at, he's even lighter than he is through the lens of my camera. So this guy is what you would call Tawny. Okay? And I'm even lighter than him. I'm what you refer to Tawny. I'm still a shade of brown. I'm just a very light colored brown. That's what you call Tawny, or they'll call tan. All right? Okay? So this whole whiteness was made up in 1681 in Virginia. Esau Edom, the so-called white man, he self-proclaimed himself white to hide his true identity because he didn't want to be identified as the Idumeans, as the Esau Edom. So it's like every couple, you know, every 400 or 500 years, Esau Edom changes who he is. When Alexander of Macedon, all right, who was an Edomite, an Amalekite on top of that, Amalek, when he conquered the land of Ham, what you call North Africa, all right, when he conquered Asia, Western Asia, and then his descendants moved up further north in Western Asia and renamed it Europe. Okay, they weren't called white people at that time. When they went in and took over Greece, they became the Grecians. The Grecians turned into the Romans. And it's time, every place that they go to, fast forward to today, they went to Australia, they became Australians. They went to South Africa, they became South Africans. They came to America, they became Americans, Canadians, etc. All right? When they went throughout Europe, all of a sudden, you know, they're Slovakians and they're Romanians, they're Czechoslovakians, they're Polish and Ukrainians now. They're all Edomites. And they're not from the Caucasus Mountains. That is their second mountainous home. They're from Mount Seir, Petra. That's the first cave place. The troglodytes is what they are. That's their first cave home. And now that I said it, let me show some receipts for anyone who might be new. All right. I have images of Mount Seir, of Petra, which is spoken about in the Bible. The Lord refers to them as Mount Seir. That's why even in Babylon, they'll still refer to as Mount Seir. Even in Gog and Magog, they'll still be referred to as Mount Seir because that's their home. This is a temple in Mount Seir. This is in Jordan. All right. So here, all right, these are relics from Mount Seir, from Petra. You would think you were in Greece somewhere. This is their original home. All right. Esau Edom, the so-called white man. The caves of Petra, of Mount Seir. Okay. That's the entrance to Mount Seir. You can still see that they built after Mount Seir when they went into to Western Asia, Northwestern Asia, the portion that they call Eurasia now. They started building like that. All right. They still built like that to this day. The court buildings, you know, their museums. Okay. Mount Seir, Petra. So that's their first mountainous home, the first cave dwellers. Built cities right into the, you know, you can't help but think about them when you watch the Lord of the Rings movies and you always see the trolls and then how those trolls, everything about them is screaming little hats. And then the way that they build into the mountains and down into the, you know, into the caves and stuff. Yeah, that's the true nature of Esau. Okay. So now that we've cleared that up, this guy asks why, you know, Esau Edom hates Jacob, the swarthy people. So why the pale people who were born red, then the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, that's in Genesis 25th chapter, hates his melanated brother, Jacob, whose color wasn't described because he came out like everybody else. The rest of the world was swarthy or tawny. Esau, Edom was the only people that came out red. That was the mark put on them, which was the mark of Cain. The mark of Cain returned with Esau, Edom, because Cain and Abel were Esau and Jacob through the spirit all over again.
I have a question. Why do whites hate blacks generally? So I use the word generally because I'm not speaking or asking this question from an individual perspective, because I'm not asserting, nor am I asking whether every white person hates blacks, but whites generally, whites holistically, whites as a whole, white society. Why does white society, why do whites hate blacks? Now, for those of you who will deny that it's true that whites generally hate blacks, the proof is in the pudding. There's no way to deny it. So hang around. I want to talk about that for a few minutes.
One short
Fucking
every
commercial.
sport. Hey guys, this is Joe, founder
you
and CEO
assholes.
of Viore,
I
and
fucking
today I'm going
hate
to tell you
this
about
song.
one of my favorite.
So yeah, don't even waste my time with it's
Let me stop right here. All right. Because, this is some content that I've never used before, and it just dawned on me I hadn't. Let me declare. I'm going to have to put it in the title now. All right. The copyright statute. Disclaimer: under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, as allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. You got to learn how to use Esau's law against him. All right. You really have to do that. Okay. So I'm not profiting from this financially in any way whatsoever. All right, so here we go. Let's let them a few more seconds of this, and then we're going to go back into the scriptures.
It's not true. I mean, it is true. We have exhibit after exhibit after exhibit after exhibit, and we're going to get into that. Let's have a serious dialogue. I want you to answer me in the comments as well. And again, the question is, why do whites hate blacks generally? That is the question that I'm asking.
Okay, so there's a quick, fast, easy biblical answer. Well, I already kind of read one of them. All right, they've had a perpetual hatred, but let's see why. All right, so let's go to Genesis 27th chapter. They hate us because of the blessing. All right, and to have complete understanding, once again, you have to get away from this whole black-white thing, and you need to really call these white people Esau, Edom. You really need to point them out and let them know who they are. Okay? Because the Lord didn't create white and black people. That's a man-made terminology created to control the narrative, which they love controlling the narrative. All right? I was listening to this, and it looks like I mistakenly cut that video out, but it was that one very racist Edomite woman, the Amalekite, who made her face look like a black woman while spewing so much hate on the so-called on black people. But she sure did go out and chop her face up, made her lips ginormous. It don't fit her face at all, and darkened up her skin at the same time. She's hating on, so-called black people so harshly. All right. This Edomite woman. But she was given this whole Hamas narrative, which is a very controlled narrative. And then the guy that she was telling it to turned around and reversed it on it and used the same thing against her in America. With all this, it's nonstop wars, which were all proven, in the last 20-something years, the effects, the things that so-called caused these wars, turned out to not be true. I mean, there never was any weapons of mass destruction. And look how many millions of people have died ever since that lie was pushed. Okay. So, let's go to that Genesis 27:38. And Esau said unto his father, hast thou but one blessing, my father? Bless me even me so also, O my father. And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. So he's crying for a blessing, but you have to understand, when you go back and read the blessing, Jacob had already been given the kingdom of heaven. Esau is given this, as my beloved brother Yakia says, this current evil present world. And this is a blessing. That's why he's in rulership right now, because of this blessing. Okay? Not because of anything that he did that was great. All right? It says, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth, and the dew of heaven from above. All right? So, matter of fact, that brings to mind this, let's play this real quick.
The Native Americans could have won the war against the colonizers, but they lost because they're too good of people. If you've ever studied Native American history or read books like An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States or Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, you find out very quickly that the Native American people were absolutely amazing people. See how incredible and capable and fierce these people were. And at some point you begin to ask yourself, how did they lose? Especially when they won so many battles against the U.S. government. And every time the government would lose, they would ask for peace, they would sign a treaty, and then immediately break that treaty. But when you see how many battles the Native Americans won against U.S. soldiers, you just have to ask yourself, how did they lose? And the reason is because they were too good of people. Because even though their warriors were better than the U.S. soldiers, even though they were better strategists than the U.S. soldiers, the reason they lost is because they don't have evil in their heart. They didn't have hatred in their heart. They wouldn't resort to dirty...
We'll stop right there. He said they wouldn't resort to dirty tactics like starving children and killing off the food source and that whole sort of thing, when Esau, Edom does. But what it comes down to, it wasn't that I used to ask that same question as a kid, learning history. What he said, I used to ask that question as a kid. How did these people take us down? And then I would watch boxing and combat sports. You know, when I was a kid, you know, Ali was champion. You know, and all these great, you know, Judite boxers, you know, Southern Kingdom boxers, in the heavyweight divisions, and in all the middle and lightweight ones, you know, Northern Kingdom champions. And I'm just thinking to myself, man, these black and Hispanic men, so-called, these native men, Benedict Uquedes, you know, the kickboxer. I'm like, man, how these guys are just champions, just badass. And I'm like, how is it that these weak, pathetic men looking at basketball and football, the dominating force on all sports was the so-called Negro and Hispanic. Look at baseball, you know, and soccer. I'm like, how did they beat? And you have to understand, it goes back to this blessing that I'm reading about. The Lord blessed Esau so that prophecy could be fulfilled. All right. This is why the Lord elevated Esau. He didn't elevate himself. It's the same way the Lord is bringing Esau, exposing Esau and bringing him down. And the Lord is going to bring Esau down. All right. We're not going to do it. The Lord is going to do it, but he's going to give us the power to rise up and have a hand in it. Okay. But it's not our doing. All right. But it says, and so back into Genesis 27:39, and Isaac his father answered and said unto him, behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven from above. And by thy sword shalt thou live. And thou shalt, and it says, and thou shalt serve thy brother, and it shall come to pass that thou shalt have the dominion, and that thou shalt break his yoke off of thy neck. So Esau was given the blessing of the sword, weaponry. and he would live by that sword. Meaning, if you living by the sword, that means you going and you deboing everybody. You making them check they shit in. I need this land. I need those horses, these sheep, these goats. I need all that gold. All right. Run that shit. And that's how Esau lived. He was given the blessing of the sword. And the Lord is the one that set it up. And the evils have to be multiplied, as it tells you in the book of Maccabees. When Esau, Edom got dominion in the earth, the evils and the wickedness spread throughout the earth. The Edomites are evil, wicked people. And then it says, right, and Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him, because Esau's rulership was temporary. That's why it tells you in the book of Revelation, the dragon that was wounded and shut up for 1,000 years. So that 1,000-year period from the time that Rome fell, the Negroes ruled the Byzantine Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, whatever you want to call it, ruled that portion of Asia that they now call Europe, and there's evidence of their bones and the relics. Remember when Putin exposed those icons from Russia of early Christianity before they were whitewashed and everything was painted white. All right, that 1,000-year period that they were on the bottom. And they came back into power doing what? The Renaissance. Okay? And when they came back into power, what they did to ensure that you would never rise up again, or at least that was their hope, was they took away your Israelite heritage, claimed they were the people of the Lord. All right? Used the Bible as a weapon against you. Christianity was created or taken over by them. All right? And they whitewashed everything. Okay? Back to Genesis 27:41. And Esau hated Jacob for the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, the days of mourning for my father are at hand, but I will slay my brother Jacob. And these words of Esau, her elder son, were told to Rebekah, and she sent and called Jacob her younger son and said unto him, behold, thy brother Esau, as touching thee, doth comfort himself, purposing to kill thee. And he's never stopped that. This is why Esau, Edom, the so-called white man, has a natural hatred for you. And why he constantly controls the narrative. All right? This is why he does it. And he frames mischief by law. All right? What? With a control narrative. Matter of fact, let's look that up. This is an AI overview of narrative. Of control narrative refers to two different but related concepts. Okay? One is about machinery, but we're going to jump down to this one. Broader context. Politics, business, personal life. So let's bring that one up. Okay? It says, if you're following the arrow here, if you can see it on the screen, okay? I can't make it darker there. But it says the definition of control narrative means to intentionally frame a story, event, or fact in a way that promotes a specific purpose or interest, like constantly talking about Hamas hiding behind women and children. All right, it's an excuse to just continually destroy them and defend yourself. The goal, the aim to influence how people understand and interpret a situation, created a desired perception. So they created a perception, a lie. This is what they do. All right. When the statistics, like they read you off in the first video, most of the crimes that are done in America are done, the violent crimes and the worst crimes are done by white males collectively, but they always attach brown faces to them in the media. This whole pushing the narrative that they got to take back the cities and they're so violent right now. It's all a lie. Violence is down in all major cities and the city. So they're using ICE to go after the Northern Kingdom and they want to bring in the military to go after the Southern Kingdom. They're descending upon Jacob all over again, fulfilling yet again Jeremiah 50:33, where it says, both Judah and Israel were oppressed together. Okay, how it's done. This can involve provocative communication, key messages addressing misinformation used in media, and creating compelling content to shape public opinion. They do this daily. daily, nonstop. All right. They use lies and deception. The Bible tells you, and this is Psalms 94 and 20. It reads, shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by law? Frame. They set you up, they lie. Okay? Matter of fact, let's look that word up, etymology online of frame. Okay? Etymology mean basically breaking down to meaning the truth in words, the true meaning of words. All right? That's something that, you know, we've learned from the apostles and the elder bishops, the importance, you know, and I don't think anyone pushes that harder than Apostle Gabar. It had the importance of looking up the meaning of words. Okay? But this says frame, Old English, to profit, a helpful, avail, benefit, frame. All right? We want to go down to this one. The second definition, a sense of focus in Middle English from the make ready, to prepare timber for building, meaning purpose to devise or test it. The criminal slang sense of blame an innocent person is probably from the earlier sense of the plot and secret. All right. So this is what they do. They frame mischief by law so that they can blame innocent people, that they can blame Jake. All right. From the meaning, fabricate a story with evil intent, which is the first attest. So these black cities, they're out of control. These gangs, they're talking about Trinjay Aragra on 75th Street. And it turns out that the building was going under. So they did this to, you know, to get out of making payments and things like that with the bank. And then, you know, and there is no Trinjay Aragra activity going on in that building whatsoever. That building sits right in the middle of Lakeside and Terrortown. The gangs there have their place on lockdown. Ain't no Trinjay Aragra there at all. That is a fabricated mischief framed by law, a controlled narrative that they're using as an excuse to savagely treat these people who are led in here by the masses so that they can do this, so they can proceed forward with these plans to lock down and create terror and mischief and chaos. It was all a plan. We're going to flood the same thing they did in Europe, all right, and Eurasia, by destroying Yemen and all them different Arab countries. And then those people, after their countries were destroyed, flooding into Europe. Now they have the same excuse to lock down, control, and gather these people up. They framed mischief by law. Okay? And the Lord is coming to deal with them. And all this is over the... Matter of fact, let me read two last scriptures and we'll get ready to wrap this up. Because, you know, Esau's exposed. He's out there. Going back to Ezekiel 35, we're going to read verse 7 through 9. And it reads, thus I will make Mount Seir most desolate and cut off from it him that passeth out and him that returneth. And I will make his mountains with and I will fill his mountains with slain men in thy hills, and in thy valleys and in thy rivers they shall fall, they are slain by the sword. And I will make thee a perpetual desolation, and thy cities shall not return. Ye shall know that I am Yahweh. So as they're about to fill their bellies, the Lord is about to put Esau to the sword and put him to a desolation and make him and bring him to naught. The moment and so it's good that he's doing this, because he's going to eventually start putting his hand on the elect. Right now, they're really going after the 2/3 who are already marked for death. But he's going to, once they start putting their hands on the elect, it's a wrap, man. And all this is what? For the controversy of Zion. Let's go to Isaiah, and this will be the last scripture. Isaiah 34:8. And it reads, for it is the day of Yahweh's vengeance and the year of recompenses for the controversy of Zion. These people lying and claiming our heritage, right? When all the evidence, the Bible and the history shows you that they are not. And yet they're intent on controlling the narrative because they're able to, because who has, the power and control over the media to keep continually frame mischief by law. and the Lord is taking it all from them. So with that, all praises, glory, and honor be unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash, Kwam, Yasharala, Abad, Babal.